Thank you for tuning in to Grand Solar Minimum channel. We are live covering the earthquake that just happened in California. A magnitude 6.4 earthquake rocked Southern California today, July 4th. It's out near San Bernardino County, widely felt around the region as many prepared to celebrate Independence Day. The preliminary 6.6, now downgraded to a 6.4 trembler, hit 10 o'clock, actually 10:33 a.m., centered around the Mojave Desert in this, I think it's pronounced Surlees Valley, about 11 miles east-northeast of a ridge crest. That's about 109 miles north of San Bernardino and 121 miles northeast of Los Angeles. Dr. Lucy Jones, she gave a little bit of an analysis on Twitter. I'm just going to pull up her information. She says the 6.4 is on a strike slip fault about 10 miles from Ridgecrest. It's not the San Andreas fault. It's an area with a lot of little faults, but no long faults. So good news there. Very big quake. And luckily, really nothing. So we will continue to keep an eye on this. I'll keep the live stream up for a bit longer. And
I've never seen them have to stall. Did you get scared? A little bit. I was like, what's wrong with me right now?
I thought it was just me getting dizzy.
Yeah.
So it was like a shock. So I wasn't really scared.
They have been stuck in the canoe since the earthquake. No. Oh, look at that duck over there. That duck he's gonna go.
He'll make it. He's a pro.
الأممي إلى ليبيا غسان سلامة، إن هذا القصف قد يرقى إلى مستوى جريمة حرب.
أين يتجه الموقف الدولي من مجزرة مركز اللاجئين في العاصمة الليبية؟ وما مصير المطالبات بتحقيق دولي مستقل؟ سؤالان أثارهما مآل محادثات مجلس الأمن بعد عرقلة الولايات المتحدة إصدار بيان يدين الهجوم رغم أن واشنطن وصفته بالبغيض. موقف تجاهل تقييم بعثة الأمم المتحدة في ليبيا بأن القصف قد يصل إلى مستوى جريمة حرب على لسان مبعوثها غسان سلامة. اعتراف قوات حفتر بقصف مركز تاجوراء المعروف لدى المنظمات الدولية شكل في رأي كثيرين استهانة علنية بحرمة المواقع المدنية، لكن هذا الاعتراف وردود الفعل الباهتة لم تغير رواية حكومة الوفاق في طرابلس. فقد أكد وزير الداخلية بحول قوات حفتر، وهذا بدوره يجدد ما قاله رئيس المجلس الأعلى للدولة الليبية خالد المشري من أن الهجوم يحمل ريبيرو. قال إن طرابلس تدرس حاليا إقفال مراكز الإيواء وإجلاء من فيها، قرار ينبع من انعدام توفر الغطاء الجوي حتى للمراكز المدنية، يقول بشاغة. سياسة الكيل بمكيالين ليست غريبة على المشهد الليبي كما تثبته الوقائع. فمنذ بدء هجوم قوات حفتر على جنوب طرابلس كانت الانتقادات متلاحقة للموقف الأمريكي والفرنسي ولدول عربية عدة اعتبر صمتها أو مواقفها الدبلوماسية غير الحازمة
Crest, you start seeing these much higher intensities that imply there could have been damage in that area. So, but I extremely unlikely that there's any damage outside of Ridgecrest and China Lake. Those two communities, I presume somebody's in there trying to help them.
Yeah, and we don't currently have a lot of reports up where that star is located. That's
what reports are you getting?
Well, this is a shaking report, what's being displayed right here. It's not necessarily a damage report, and unfortunately we don't get directly reports of damage.
Is this like a monitor, or is this a person when you say a report?
Well, these are actually reports where people, this is called the Did You Feel It? And you can actually go in on the web.
Almost 24,000 reports have been brought in. That information is used to then calibrate between recording on our instruments if we can correlate.
Yeah, so just very briefly, we have geologists that are heading out to the field to see if there's any surface rupture. They might also be able to get some information about damage potentially. We also need a chance to actually look at a lot of the data that's coming in. And as Lucia said, there's been probably hundreds of misses, but maybe in the next couple hours.
I think we could also offer, if we wanted to, like on the hour, come in and give you any update that we've got at those times, at least for the next few hours.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it is a holiday. People have a lot of special events planned. What would you tell people in the greater LA area about their plans today?
Unless you have to come in and work, go ahead.
Lucy's got lots of extra food at her house.
Yeah, I know.
Can you say one of our last names again? I'm sorry.
Okay, my name's Lucy Jones, Lucyjones. I'm a seismologist with Caltech. I'm also a chief scientist of the Dr. Lucy Jones Center for Science and Society.
And Robert Graves, Robert Graves, and I'm a seismologist with the U.S. Geological Survey.
Thank you very much.
How about we say we come back at 12:30?
Yeah, it's 11:45 right now.
It's quarter now. So, and then on the half hours, we'll try to come and tell you.
Great having you back. Lucy Jones giving us an update. Earthquake that did strike out in the Mojave Desert. This is a smaller fault, the Little Lake Fault. This is a live look also with Air 7 HD over situations with people feeling this throughout Southern California. What you see on your screen on the left right now is a water main break in LA. LA Fire Department on scene. This is on Wilshire Boulevard, and they have a lot of resources there right now. It is unclear, though, we do need to point out, if this is related to the earthquake that happened just after 10:30 this morning. But it obviously is coincidental. And we've seen LA Fire, LAPD, really virtually every emergency crew and all emergency officials in most Southern California cities taking the time right now to evaluate situations that might have come up like this. Mark Brown is joining me here in the ABC7 studios. We continue our coverage on this earthquake, and you can see that is a big mess.
It is indeed. Water mains do break here in Southern California fairly randomly, so we don't know, as you mentioned, Brandy, whether this is connected to the earthquake, although it is certainly suspicious. Regarding the casualty count, the damage estimates, and the damage reports so far from this magnitude 6.4 quake near Ridgecrest in Kern County, 4 different medical and or things falling off shelves, things like that. And then a couple of structure fires, as have been mentioned, that have been responded to. We presume those have to do. We are looking at various locations near Ridgecrest, which is north of Barstow, which is about 150 miles northeast of Los Angeles. People in LA reporting various manifestations of how it felt. This video here is from Ridgecrest, a swimming pool there, as you can imagine, the water sloshing around. We were doing live coverage of our parade, the 4th of July parade in Huntington Beach, the 115th anniversary of that parade, interrupted, we believe, by this quake that happened a little bit after 10 o'clock. Our Carlos Granda is there. Did people feel it there? And all right, I'm hearing that Carlos's signal is not great. Carlos, can you hear me?
No. Yes, I hear you perfectly.
All right, go ahead, Carlos. Yeah, now can you tell me what happened there? Did people feel it? Was there any effect on the parade?
It didn't have any effect on the parade, and again, some people felt it, some did not. I didn't feel it, and I was right near the beginning of the parade, right near the ocean. I didn't feel it there, so we moved over here, which is the end of the parade, and over here we interviewed those ladies over there earlier, and they said they did not feel it, but over here you did feel it.
We did feel it, yeah.
How was it? Where were
it was
you?
a rolling earthquake. Jenny noticed it first, but I was just at home. We could see the coat hangers moving back and forth.
Swaying, yeah. It was kind of a rolling one, not that big. It was his first one. He didn't even know
his first earthquake. How was it to your first earthquake?
It was a different experience, definitely. I'm from Poland, so we don't get many of those there. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's.
He was like, oh, what's that?
I think they're exciting, except for the damage.
You said you grew up in Huntington Beach. You felt a lot of earthquakes. How was this one?
This one was pretty mild compared to like the Northridge in '94, I think it was. Is that what it was? And then there was another one in like '72 that was bad. But yeah, the other ones you can tell they're bad when they start out shaking. This was a nice rolling one. So.
And this was very far up in the Mojave Desert, so about 200 miles from here. Wow. Does it surprise you that you could feel it that much, even though so far away?
It is. It's amazing. That just says how big it was. Yeah. So there.
It also lasted a long time.
It did. It was a long one.
Yeah, those folks over here said they didn't feel a thing, and they were right here.
That's weird. Well, maybe
they have the wind.
Yeah, that's true.
When you're inside and not really being.
Yeah. When you're walking, sometimes you might just think, "Oh, my balance is off." But.
Thank you so much. As you can see, some of the people who were here on the parade route did not feel it, maybe because they were standing around.
We appear to be losing Carlos Granda's signal there as he was reporting live from the Huntington Beach Parade in our coverage there. We want to give you an update, thanks to Carlos for that, on where people were feeling this as we look live in Air 7 HD over Los Angeles, where they're also dealing with the water main break. This was felt as far as north as Fresno, California in the Central Valley, as far south as San Diego, in Las Vegas. So everyone here in Southern California, a lot of you, as we were getting reports in, people were getting ready for the 4th of July barbecues. And Miriam Hernandez is standing by at Caltech. Miriam, Lucy Jones gave a lot of great information when it comes to what type of earthquake.
It's just too early. They were reacting to the earthquake within the first hour of it happening, so there's still a lot developing there. But Dr. Lucy Jones and Dr. Rob Graves were able to fill us in quite a bit on what they know so far, which is substantial, which we have been reporting. So a lot of people did feel it in the area. Of course, the closer to the epicenter, the more likely that given the soil conditions, the composition of the soil behind them, beneath the rocks. And for example, if you were at Griffith Park on some place that was more sturdy, you would not have felt it. But obviously, people from Dr. Lucy Jones talking about the earthquake.
It's not you.
At 6.4, this is the largest earthquake recorded in Southern California since 1999. Magnitude 7.1 hectomine earthquake happened 20 years ago. So magnitude 6, and it had to be pretty far away. There is about a 1 in 20 chance that this location will be having an even bigger earthquake within the next few days, that we have not yet seen the biggest earthquake of the sequence. It's certain that this area is going to be shaken a lot today, and some of those aftershocks will probably exceed magnitude 5, which means they will become damaging.
So the nearest fault is the Little Lake Fault, and she says that there was a swarm back there in 1982. This particular quake, she says, was strong enough to have broken through the earth. The way she described it is that two plates were sort of displaced, and that the ground motion underneath the earth was strong enough, forceful enough, and moved enough that on the surface, perhaps on a road, it would be visible that there would be feet ahead of the other. So she said it is the largest earthquake that has happened in the last 20 years. Of this earthquake, they're estimating Immigration March. Nobody there felt anything. We were in the downtown area, not too far from a lot of historic buildings. Of course, all of those have been retrofitted. They're brick buildings. Did feel movement. I thought somebody or a truck was moving by that was really big or something, but I looked around and there was no such activity. So it was palpable, but there was not enough movement to create any damage. I also asked Dr. Jones about the shake alert system. A number of people have reported that they did not get an alert on their app. She explains it as it's still a system underway, a system that is still being worked on, that the detection part of the system did work.
A parade that's going on, a 4th of July parade in Huntington Beach, and California, with all our seismic activity thus far, does not. And that is something that's going to be a lot of questions asked about in the coming days. We have, of course, a parade that's going on, a 4th of July parade in Huntington Beach. And two of our folks are down there covering that parade, David Ono and Colleen Sullivan. What can you folks tell us about how it felt down there? Did you feel it, or were you did you feel it on the platform where you are?
Absolutely, yeah, we felt it. And, you know, these parades are always beautiful and they're memorable, but this one will never be forgotten for that very reason. The fact that we were right in the middle of the parade, and all of a sudden we're on a platform, so we're swaying back and forth, and then the lights are moving, the crowd suddenly felt it as well, and then we're hearing in our ear, an earthquake is striking. And so we had a sense that it was going to be a really powerful quake, because immediately we were being told it was felt not just here in Huntington Beach, but all over Southern California, and our fears were confirmed.
They were, and you know, at first we felt the earthquake, and you know, as with earthquakes, it's usually not just one quick one. It felt like a little rolling, and then we felt it a little bit more. And at one point I thought, we're going to probably have to go underneath this little podium desk that we have made here, because you really did feel the crowd sort of stop for a moment, take in exactly what was going on, and then it's a very festive environment right now, a lot of people here, but again, it was very serious, because then we heard our producer saying a 6.6, and then it went downgraded to a 6.4, but we knew when we were hearing people, tweets coming in about everybody feeling it.
We immediately had a sense that we probably are going to have to do a dual role, at least when it first initially hit, and that is a little bit of earthquake coverage as well as parade coverage. What was interesting is the parade took a few seconds break as we kind of gathered what was happening. We got a sense that, okay, an earthquake has struck, and we try to get as much information out there as possible in the early stages of the earthquake coverage. But when it comes to our perspective here, everybody felt it throughout Southern California, especially here on the parade route. And as we all looked around, it's like, did you feel that? Did you feel that? It was really fascinating.
It is always that one moment where people kind of look at the other one, strangers look at each other thinking, we did feel it. Is there going to be a bigger one? Mark Brown was just talking about it, but if we had that early warning system and it was perfected, we would have had that warning come out that we should prepare for an earthquake within seconds, from where the epicenter was. But it really felt very far away from its epicenter.
Yeah, in the meantime, though, we did get back to parade coverage. We're sorry we had to kind of break away from ABC 7 to do the earthquake coverage, which was absolutely necessary, but we were able to continue on digitally and show the beautiful sights and sounds of the 115th annual Huntington Beach 4th of July parade, which we absolutely love. As you can see behind us, the folks come out in mass, not only to enjoy this parade, but enjoy the entire day that takes place here, including a culmination of fireworks on the pier right behind us, and it's a spectacular day here in Southern California. We're quite proud of this parade, and we love how the community all turns out for it. Granted, this time we did feel an earthquake right in the middle of it. We'll always remember 2019 because of that.
We will, but you're talking about a lot of people come out, people all across the world. We just saw Eileen Frere doing an interview with someone from Switzerland, and he came here because it's the largest parade west of the Mississippi. So we've had a very wonderful time out here, and of course the news always takes center stage especially when an earthquake hits the Southland. We of course are all sort of on what damage or any injuries could have been reported.
Bell in Ridgecrest. If anybody felt it, likely David felt it strongly because you were so close to the epicenter. David, describe what you felt just after 10:30 this morning.
Well, I had just gotten out of the shower from working outside in the dirt, and I just stepped out, grabbed my towel, and you get the shaking started. I wrapped my towel around me, grabbed my shorts, and ran to the door because when to see was building as we was getting out of the shower. Grabbed my wife, who'd been in the 64 earthquake in Anchorage, and we held each other outside the door until it stopped, and then I ran and got some shoes. It was pretty exciting.
What about well, tell me if anything got damaged in your house, first of all. Anything fell down?
No, sir.
Any structural damage?
Yeah, no structural, sir. Shelves and broke. My two children both work at local large establishments, and they had a little bit of door damage and stuff.
Been doing that of what you need to do to make sure you're safe?
No, thank you, Brandy. I appreciate it. We're pretty self-sufficient up here because it is so far from the major, places.
Because a lot of sell a house gets.
No, Mark, what we do, gas water heater, that's the main thing we do here is turn off the gas to the water heater, turn off the return valve to the well, and so you have the water heater picked up for extra water during time. I do see a helicopter in the sky flying real low.
I was going to say, the USGS is also in Ridgecrest. I'm curious to know, is there anything of concern for you, he believes? What's your biggest concern?
Small areas of 3-4 prepared, but you're right, as you get pretty rural, especially going east and west from the north-south main drags where people go 395 and 14.
Yeah. Now, tell me about the fire. You said your daughter saw a house fire near you. How far away was it? And can you any more information about that?
No, Mark, I don't see any on the horizon. She works for one of the local bank credit union type things, and she's building code, and so they may have had some kind of fires in response to things being knocked over and things like that. I do see a helicopter flying down the main street. We have a life flight helicopter that's based here to take people to the bigger trauma centers I believe in Lancaster and the like. But other than that, I don't see any fire.
Okay. Well, that is good news. And and your home structurally is taken up, but otherwise okay. Is that correct?
Brandy Bell, thank you.
Dave Bell, thank you very much for talking to us today. We really appreciate that you were able to spend some time with us.
Everyone, I see the helicopter going over now.
Are you seeing kind of the stuff that one would expect to see in the wake of an earthquake, where swimming pools get sloshed around? That video there from prior emergencies that have taken place in and around the heart of 3 a.m. today. Center of this earthquake is. We're certain that they must have felt it there. We're getting reports of people.
About an hour and a half from Ridgecrest, which is relatively close when you're talking about an earthquake. At the epicenter of that earthquake being in Ridgecrest, we can't I haven't seen any damage where I am right now, but we can hear chaos. There are fire engines with sirens going, ambulances with sirens just had, maybe not, but it's more activity than you would normally hear out here from those emergency responders. I'm here with
Susan. My granddaughter was in a parade.
Decided to run. I said, well, where am I?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yes.
And
thank you.
Thank you, and I'm glad you're safe, my friend. Thank you. Took in a video clip from a family who was just here. They gave me a video clip of their daughter laying in her bed when the earthquake, perhaps, and the room studio of that, and coming up at some point along the way here as we have our live broadcast about this earthquake, we'll bring that to you live. But Mark, I'm going to send it back to you right now.
Hey, Leo, it's Ellen Lave along with Mark Brown, and we're leaving Brandy. Medicine cabinet mirror was swinging. I thought, wait, and then Charlie started barking. I thought, okay, something's going on.
Like vertigo.
It certainly does. We're going to check in with Nancy Dent is on the phone. Nancy, you live in Ridgecrest?
Yes, I do.
Oh, boy. Can you tell us your experience?
Well, I was sitting in my family in an easy chair, and I have it on speaker. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was sitting in my Facebook. Oh,
الرئيس
was that
السيسي
just
لم يكن رئيسا
and I
آنذاك.
looked it up at
كان وزير
the
دفاع ومن هم على
and then
يمينه وعلى شماله.
minutes later, the big one hit, and I had things falling off shelves, file drawers opening, cabinets opening, broken things. My dogs were really upset. My youngest one is a puppy. She's 6 months old, and she was trying to pick up bits of and feeling the aftershocks. I have no electricity, so I'm not sure what's really going on up there, except I keep feeling aftershocks.
Wow, Nancy, that must have been some terrifying moments, especially.
Do you see any cracks? Do you see anything that looks like something's sagging? Actually, Nancy, you were one of the people that felt the foreshock of magnitude 4.2 hit about a half an hour before the real shock, which hit at 10:33. That 6.4, which was the one, of course, the big one that you felt that knocked everything. Got no electricity.
I'm shaking. My hands
also knocked out. So the ability to move around may be hindered by the fact that you may not be able to get gas. The ability to buy something may be hindered because the cash register, the ability on hand to buy whatever sort of situation. So you want to have, in terms of, so what?
You know, I have some pots that broke and pins that fell over, just things that were on shelves display. Like in my living room, half of the photos in the living room came off the wall.
Wow.
Well, I sure hope it was nothing that you were really, that was near and dear to your heart, because that is a scary thought to be in your living room and suddenly things start flying off the shelves. We're looking at some pictures from a grocery store in Ridgecrest.
Yours, but yeah, a lot of stuff got knocked off the shelves.
Oh boy.
As do a lot of people in Ridgecrest. We have a reporter on their way there. It's kind of hard to make their way to the scene to deal with these things, but they are on their way. So it's you and your family. You're all kind of outside right now. You don't want to go back in the house?
No. We don't want to go back to the house. That's right.
Yeah.
And we have a pool, and it's lost a lot of water. And we thought we got video of it, but I only have a picture.
Oh, I can imagine at night when night falls, it's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking to go to sleep. And just we're looking at someone else's pool right now. You can see the waving there, motion. It was kind of eerie to see my medicine cabinet opening and closing from the shower. I'm thinking, wait, something's happening here.
Something's going wrong, yeah. All right, well, Nancy,
yes.
Thank you very much. Are you still going to go along with your 4th of July celebration today, or is that going to be cut short?
Well, we usually
quakes.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Diana and me and the kids, we're all in the we're in the house. I'm trying to get the kids to eat. I've just made them breakfast. They're of course not wanting to eat because they want to play, and I'm telling them to eat. And Diana looks up from her desk and goes, "Earthquake." I'm like, "You're going to have to get all the 4th of July things. You're going to have to go to the 4th of July party. I'm going to have to come into work." So that was the next discussion we had, and so now say again.
Maybe we lost her.
I think we may have lost her.
But it's interesting to say that they before we feel it. Did you notice anything with your pets? Okay, well that's
They've died down now,
and this video,
I
Nancy,
heard somebody say
We've just got this video sent in from a viewer, it would appear, of a house fire that was related to that. Officials but it did occur in the wake of the earthquake, and this was something that a previous viewer, David, had talked about.
Felt another aftershock. How strong was it? Did it feel pretty strong, Nancy?
It's a little rattling, isn't it? It's not much fun feeling these. Are you kind of on edge right now, Nancy? How are you feeling just personally, physically?
I'm definitely on edge. Like I said, my hands are still shaking. It's like, and when it happened, I heard you talking, Mark, about when it happened. I was in a chair and I was just frozen. You know, you hear run outside, get under something, and I couldn't move. It was just so crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Well, the good news, according to Dr. Lucy Jones, is the likelihood of this quake being a foreshock to an even larger quake diminishes literally minute by minute. The farther out we are from the quake, the less likely it is that it's a foreshock to something else. It's now been not quite 2 hours since that quake hit. Very much less likely that it's a foreshock. The foreshock you've already experienced. That was the magnitude 4.2 that hit about a half an hour before it. Also, whether it would possibly trigger something on a San Andreas fault, it is also very unlikely because it's too far away. She said they've never seen a foreshock that was anywhere farther away than 10 miles from the actual big fault.
Right.
So the likelihood that this would somehow trigger something on a San Andreas also diminishing both hour by hour and by the location of the quake. So that's all good news.
That is
the likelihood
good news.
that you will feel something bigger than what you've already felt, pretty much, I don't want to say zero because I'm not a scientist, but it's very, very highly unlikely.
But it does not minimize that we still could have a big earthquake. You know, it has nothing to do with that. So at least, keep that in mind. We still have to be prepared. And every time something like this happens, I think I'm not fully prepared, I have to admit. Probably a lot of people at home, too.
Right.
Are like me. Well, we're Nancy, I don't know if you're standing by, but we're going to check in with our Miriam Hernandez. She's at Caltech, perhaps with the latest information. Miriam?
Okay.
That's right. Well, Mark Brown has exhibited such a grasp of everything that Lucy Jones said. I don't know if there's anything more for me to say, but they will be having a briefing here in about 7 minutes. I want to tell you that the overlying message here, the underlying message, the overarching message here is prepare, 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 because we don't know when the next really big one is coming. Of course, a lot of people have been trying to get set for the next quake by downloading that Shake Alert app, and we have had many calls about the app not working or people not getting the app. Well, getting the alert. We talked to Lucy Jones here. She was explaining what happened, and here's what she said about what was going on.
We have a system that recognizes that earthquakes are beginning and sends you the information that the earthquake has begun and an estimate of when shaking will get to you, depending on this travel time of the waves. So the system worked and said there's an earthquake of about 6.2. Producing energy, and the warning came through. In Los Angeles, there was 48-second warning that the shaking was arriving. Obviously, it was not damaging shaking. That's one of the downsides to this only approach that we have. Farther away you are, the more warning you get, and the less likely it is to be damaging.
And one of the things she has said previously is that once you get the alert, you have to have a plan about what action you are going to take wherever you are, whether you're in your car, whether you're in your home, whether you're at work, whether you're under a bridge. You have to know what to do next, not just flip out. She says the instant reaction for many people is to hit the stairs, hit the elevator, get out of the building. That could be the worst thing you could do. So when you get an alert, you should have an idea already in mind of the safest place to go. And what is the message that they're telling all the school kids? That is to drop and roll, to hide under a chair, under a desk, and to seek protection. Now, about what's happening here at the Seismo Lab, we're getting information about the aftershocks coming in. We can expect more of them as the day goes on. As we were on the air the air and Dr. Lucy Jones was explaining what was going on, we actually saw another wave come through on the map. And if we have that video available, let's roll that one as well. Daylight? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I have a strong signal. I think that's mine. So I gave it to you. Okay. All right. We'll get that ready. Yeah. We don't have that video right at this moment, but as she was briefing us, we could see it on the map here, the wave coming through. Now, we're getting reports of variable sensations by people here in the Southland about what they felt and what they did not feel. Again, they explained that it has to do with the intensity of the quake, which was pretty strong, the distance from the quake, but also the soil composition. Are you on loose sedimentary soil, or are you on a foothill where there is rock beneath you? Those are, and it also has to do with the type of structure that you're in. It also has to do with the type of structure that you're in. If you're in a wood frame building, if you're on the second floor, if you're on a taller building, if you're in the upper floors, you're going to find that your building is going to sway. You're going to feel that. But if you're on the ground, if you are walking, you may not notice it all. Certainly if you're driving, unless it's a very strong quake, you will not feel it while you're driving. The sensation that has been described to me by people who have been in a strong quake while they're driving is that it feels like you're getting a flat tire. It sways, it moves. The way you steer, you're not able to control, and many people have pulled over thinking they have a flat tire. So those are some of the sensations to be aware of. But again, those aftershocks coming, there may be a strong one in there, but as time goes on, we are likely to feel them less. Again, Dr. Lucy Jones will be here in just a few minutes, and she will give us an update. One of the key things we're looking for is what went on with that app. We understand that it did register the equipment, the computer system did register the quake, but that the alert did not disseminate to many people. So they're going to be looking into that. Also, they're going to be updating us on the progress of the field teams that are going to go out and inspect the ground where they believe there has been an actual visible rupture in the ground. They want to inspect that to learn more about the breakage underneath the ground. Every earthquake kind of informs us about what's going on geophysically, and one thing that we've been told is that this one is so far from the San Andreas Fault that it is not connected, but that there is a lot of energy that continues to build up here in the Southland. We're going to wait for the briefing. Until then, reporting live from Caltech, Miriam Hernandez. Now back to you.
Well, it's interesting, Miriam, how Dr. Lucy Jones was talking about how, we've been in a relatively dry period for earthquakes. We've gotten sort of complacent, and last 10 years we haven't had nearly as many as we did the decade before. So, this is sort of normal for California.
Exactly, and we've been lulled into a sense of complacency because it has been so quiet. So Lucy Jones is now back here, and they're looking at the maps to make sure they're operational for when they do update us on this briefing. But we'll just continue on until. We've got to get this map up. Okay, she says they've got to get this map up before they can do a show and tell, because they want to explain this to people with some specificity. So again, in terms of being alert, it has been so quiet lately. And meantime, this year, the USGS, the California Earthquake Authority, seismologists here at Caltech, they've been trying to get the word out to people to prepare, to make sure that you have your home insured, to make sure that you have an earthquake kit, to make sure you have plenty of water. Many people say, well, if it happens, it happens. I'll be able to deal with it. Not really being aware of what a really strong earthquake can do. So that is the message that that they're trying to get out, and here we're just learning more about the science of what's going on. We've been hearing a lot of the reports coming from Ridgecrest area, from the places where people have actually seen damage, but here we're learning more about the underpinnings of the quake activity, which is very important to understand. The belief is the more people understand about how things operate seismically, then they will understand the inevitability of a quake. All these foothills you see, all those are built by quakes. All those are formed by quakes. The valleys, the sedimentary flow from those foothills, that all comes from the quake activity. They're still working on the maps here. I'm just kind of monitoring it as we go. The quake map and the different aftershock forecasts, the waveforms, all these things are visible on a map. So we are watching as they kind of work on their technology here to make sure that they can give you an accurate idea of the data that is being gathered. The most important thing, though, is probably what you felt, where you were with your family. This quake was pretty far away from us, so you can imagine what one would do if you were closer. I'm going to step out of the way so that you can see the maps. Okay. Okay. There are a lot of reporters in this room, and everybody here is trying to get a view of these maps and be ready for the next briefing. So we're kind of in crowded quarters when this quake happened, and I felt it in two waves, only because I was leaning against a brick wall and I felt that wall moved. I thought at first maybe I was feeling a dizzy spell or something, it was something wrong with my head, and then it happened again. I got up, I looked around, the march was, okay. Dr. Lucy Jones is about to give us the latest.
Get out of here. Okay, hi everyone.
That's okay. It's all right.
Thank you. We said we'd come back at 12:30. 12:32. We got pretty close. Let's see. Begin with a recap just of what we got.
Yeah. Okay. So
our names: Lucy Jones with Caltech.
And Rob Graves with the U.S. Geological Survey. So we're just giving an update about this morning's earthquake.
Searles Valley.
Searles Valley earthquake is what we're calling it, magnitude 6.4. About damage, potential damage. We do still have geologists going out in the field, but we haven't gotten word back from them yet. And we also have some updates in terms of the shake alert system. So, Lucy, why don't you start in terms of the activity with seismicity?
Okay, so on the aftershocks that we've been recording, so far we have about 30 that are above magnitude 3 and 6 above magnitude 4. Overall, this is a very robust sequence. And on the theory that when you have a lot of earthquakes, you tend to have a lot of earthquakes, we tried about a 9% chance that something larger than 6.4 could occur over the next week. That's just saying this is a big sequence, which shouldn't be surprising anybody who's been watching what's been going on for the last 2 hours. We also have locations on some of them, and that's where we were trying to get up this this map here. And it's interesting, it does look like we might be seeing two different faults. Okay, if you would do that. So the main shock was actually located in the middle. The fault was rupturing down towards the southwest, which would have focused the energy towards Ridgecrest. But then there's also a second fault that seems to have been activated going up to the northwest. Again, this area, that's not completely surprising. Look at those little black lines in there. There's a bunch of them. This is an area with a lot of little faults that are moving apart. It does suggest that Ridgecrest was particularly hard hit. We have reports from California Office of Emergency Services that there seem to be a couple of structure fires going on in Ridgecrest, and they're responding to them. There is also a small community called Trona, which is even closer to the ruptures, and it's on a dried lake bed. We do not have any communication with them yet. There would be a place that potentially there's significant damage. As I said, we're seeing at least 2 faults involved. This area is characterized by robust sequences, so we expect to be seeing a lot of earthquakes today, and some of them could be damaging. Probably at least one more will be damaging.
Kern County just tweeted something that suggested that they were anticipating a quake in 15 minutes. This tweet came out a little while ago.
There is nothing that gives us the time of a particular event. Now, I'm going to tell you I think there will be a magnitude 5 today. I did that on the day of Northridge, and when it happened, people said, "You predicted the earthquake." And I said, "I predict rain in Kauai, too." This is the same situation. When the probabilities are this high, then you can say, yes, there'll probably be a magnitude 5 today, but it's not the time of any particular event. There's nothing. If somebody's giving out a time of a particular event, they're not basing it on science. Okay? That's probably what we've really got about the aftershocks, is that we don't yet have, the geologists haven't yet gotten out, so we don't have a report yet on that.
Actually, you did mention we've seen this kind of conjugate behavior.
Oh, that's true. Well, besides, did you just notice 2 aftershocks showed up? I just saw the 2 extra red dots that showed up here. This type of, conjugate behavior is relatively common. Back in 1987, we had 2 magnitude 6s on conjugate faults. The Landers earthquake with Big Bear. Big Bear was a little more separated from it, but was the same type of conjugate feature. The way the stress works, if I'm pushing in this way, I can move out here, or I can move out here. And so those essentially perpendicular, we call it conjugate faulting, is a common feature. And we'll just have to see. We're only 2 hours into this sequence. We'll have to see how it develops.
What about the Shake Alert app? Have you gotten any closer to understanding?
Yeah, so I can give an update about that. And there's maybe a little bit of misunderstanding or miscommunication. The system actually worked as designed. So an alert was sent out by the U.S. Geological Survey. The app with the city of LA or greater in LA County, it will send out an alert. This earthquake was outside of LA County, so it didn't satisfy that condition. The other condition is intensity greater than 4. The intensities in LA were in the city of LA was not damaging. Was worked as designed.
If it had worked as, with the levels set correctly, or
well, they were set lower.
Differently.
Yes.
What would we have seen on the app? What would we have seen?
So if, for example, if it had been 3, intensity 3, or then people would have got notification to expect shaking. I don't know the exact wording on the app. But again, the shaking levels would not have been damaging. Certainly, it would have been great, to kind of know ahead of time.
Does it have sound, or is it
threshold is set?
Latin American Studies 1 was underway at Houston.
So I'm not completely sure. I think they may be using something. Well, they were going to be using a chiming alert that's used in Japan, but there was some. I'm not sure which one they ended up using.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the issue to not lower the levels is simply because you don't want to start getting so many alerts that people don't pay attention when they get them.
Right, and this is something that's actually been studied.
Explain that, for people who didn't hear that question.
Okay, so just to repeat, the question was, the reason why potentially that the alert level isn't set lower is so that you don't have a large number of alerts with minimal shaking. And that is correct, and this is a subjective judgment. And so in designing the app, you have to make a decision on that. There's actually been a fair amount of research looking into this in other places like Japan and Mexico, and there's some sense that people don't mind getting an alert even if the shaking is not that severe, and which would have been the case here if it had been set to intensity 3.
Sorry.
So this is something that maybe we need to, again, maybe needs to be looked at, tweaked on the system. Yes.
No, sorry. Just to clarify, because there had been some talk about 2 earthquakes today, so if you could just run through that.
There have been hundreds of earthquakes today. For a while, the website showed 2 magnitude 6.4s. So the way the system works is there's a lot of us recording earthquakes around the world, especially, and we have a system that if somebody else puts up an alert, and there's always the chance that the Great Pasadena earthquake means that we aren't giving out anything, so you want to have somebody else be able to say it if we're not here, and so there's a system to try and negotiate that. There was a warning, we think it was from the Tsunami Warning Center actually, and the timing, usually the system can recognize that.
That's still the case. That's not this two earthquake issue.
Does the second fault have a name? We got Little Lake.
We're not
faults that we did not know about.
We know a lot of faults in this area. I mean, just if you look again at the picture, which just disappeared on us. If we could maybe just reload the page, how does this line up with the ones we know about?
Is it relevant that there are
not to us? People, I think it's a psychological issue. If it's an unknown fault, my God, then we didn't know. It makes it scarier. The reality is we have a lot of
particularly strong for that area.
This earthquake is the largest in the Little Lake area in the last century. But in general, the Owens Valley, the sort of geologic structures up there, have had a lot of earthquakes like this. There was actually a 7.5 in 1872 that ran through, it was usually called the Independence earthquake, or sometimes just the Owens Valley. That area, the largest earthquake in 100 years. Does that make it unusual? No. From geology, we really need to know, we need to look at millennia to say what's standard.
Once geologists are there, how long does it take them to gather information?
Well, we're waiting for the picture to show up. I mean, they'll take a picture and send it to us and go, look, there's the fault offset. There's one level at which it's simple. The geologists, presuming there are fault offsets, will probably be mapping it in detail over the next month.
Okay. Are they in trucks or helicopters or?
We don't have enough money to send helicopters. They're in trucks.
The National Guard does. I really don't know how you guys do that.
No, not the geologists. Look at our budget sometime.
So
they're en route.
They are en route, and as soon as we have information, regarding fault offsets or anything like that, we'll provide it. Hopefully within the next briefing or so.
And since we don't have any pictures yet, can you again sort of illustrate what that's going to look like? What a seismologist would want to take a photo of?
So we're speculating a little bit here in that we don't know yet if this fault actually ruptured to the ground surface, and it's magnitude 6.4s in California sometimes break all the way to the ground surface and sometimes don't. So until we actually have some definitive information, if it did break up to the ground surface, what we should see is where two sides of the ground that were close together have slid horizontally relative to each other. And there may be some vertical displacements as well, but given the information that we have recorded, again, until we actually get some definitive information from some folks there, I can't be sure about that, but it is a possibility.
Also, we now actually a statement of how much slip happened, how much 1 centimeter, but a half a meter to a couple feet. So it's potentially a pretty big offset. The question is whether it's confined at depth or whether it made it up to the surface. And there have been hypotheses that if it comes to the surface, you get a different shaking pattern than if it doesn't. And not everyone agrees with that hypothesis. Some previous earthquake, it has come through to the surface. Most earthquakes begin about 5 to 10 miles below the surface. It's difficult to get a big earthquake to start up close to the surface. There's not enough confining pressure. By the way, if a fault could open up, you can't have an earthquake, right? Because the earthquake is shaking, just like snapping your fingers. Try snapping your fingers when they've opened up. You don't make a sound. right? And that's, if the fault opens up, you wouldn't be producing any shaking. And at the surface, you know, it's not as confined. So the earthquakes happen deeper down. So most faults in California extend at least from the, if we map it at the surface, it probably goes at least 10 miles down and probably more than that. And it's just as it gets deeper down, it behaves differently.
There's a lot of ancient volcanic history out of Little Lake, correct?
Not so. Little Lake is a volcanic region. There are some active volcanics. Right.
There's a cinder cone.
Yeah, well, and the China Lake Weapons Center runs a geothermal plant there. So there are there's magma at depth. There's molten rock at depth, which has been used to tap for geothermal energy. So it's a potentially volcanic area.
What did you say was your prediction of the likelihood of a quake above 6.4?
9%.
9%.
And over the next week. If we get through, and as we see, actually, well, we aren't at the moment.
Okay. I got it up on the way.
Okay. The rate of aftershocks is substantially lower now than it was in the first briefing, right? So these things do die off really quickly with time. Any other questions? Wrap it up.
Thank you. Back at 1:30.
Let's at 2 o'clock at this point. We'll come back and see if we have some more information.
Just super quickly, sorry, China Lake area. Are you hearing of any damage at that naval weapons station?
Remember, damage does not get reported to us. Right. We had a phone call with OES. The only thing they told us was about structure fires in Ridgecrest.
Okay, and I heard about a water main break in San Bernardino. Any idea if that's related?
That's pathetic. It could be. Improbable, but it must have. If it did, it was already in bad shape.
Yeah, well, San Bernardino, it's all in.